Hello and Assalamu alaikum. This video explores why Shias follow the Prophet Muhammad and his family, also known as al-Bayt, and provides information on who the Ahlul-Bayt are. Without further ado, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. According to a mutawatir tradition, or a tradition where it is unquestionable in its veracity, the Prophet Muhammad informed his followers that he would leave them two precious or weighty things, one being the Qur'an and the other being the Ahlul-Bayt, or his family. If Muslims adhere to both of these, they will never go astray after him. This is narrated in Sahih Muslim as well as over 50 Sunni sources. Yet many Sunni Muslims do not accept or even know of the existence of the Qur'an and Ahlul-Bayt tradition. They use another tradition from Al-Hakim's Al-Mustadrak, which says the Prophet left two things: the Book of Allah and the Sunnah. However, the tradition is not found in any of the 6 authentic Sunni collections of traditions known as the Siha Sita, and is considered weak by many scholars. The term Sunnah refers to the actions, words, and habits of the Prophet Muhammad, and is synonymous with the term Hadith. Following Muhammad's Sunnah is a way of obeying and honoring him. However, not all Muslims agree on what constitutes the correct Sunnah, because they rely on different sources of the prophetic traditions, which may be authentic or fabricated. This raises the question then, how do we know which Sunnah are the correct ones to follow, since all Muslims, despite their differences, claim to follow the Prophet and his Sunnah? This leads to different interpretations and sects within Islam. The Prophet himself warned his followers about this division and advised them to hold fast to two things: the Quran and his family. He said that these two would never separate from each other until they meet him at the pool of paradise on the day of judgment. This means that the guidance and wisdom found in the traditions of his family about his Sunnah can be trusted and considered reliable. The question then arises, who are the Ahlul-Bayt, or the family members of the Prophet? The Holy Quran mentions Ahlul-Bayt and their exceptional virtue in the following verse, known as the purification verse, or Ayah al-Tahir. It states, "Verily, Allah intends to keep off from you every kind of uncleanness, O people of the house," or Ahlul-Bayt, "and purify you with a perfect purification." Chapter 33, verse 33. According to this verse, Allah expresses his intention to keep Ahlul-Bayt pure and sinless. Nonetheless, from verse 33 alone, we cannot conclude that the wives of the Prophet are not included in the Ahlul-Bayt. This claim can be proven by authentic traditions of the Sunnis from their Siha Sita, or authentic books. Sahih Muslim and Sahih al-Tirmidhi, among others, confirm the Shia point of view regarding the wives of the Prophet Muhammad. In Sahih Muslim, there is a chapter named Chapter of Virtues of the Companions, with a section called Section of the Virtues of the AHLULBAYT of the Prophet. This section contains only one tradition, known as the tradition of the cloak or the mantle, otherwise referred to as Hadith al-Kisa, which has no reference to the wives of the Prophet Muhammad as part of the AHLUL-Bayt. The tradition describes how the Prophet came out wearing a black cloak and welcomed his two grandsons, Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein, his daughter Fatima and her husband Ali ibn Abu Talib, under it. Then he recited, "Verily, Allah intends to keep off from you every kind of uncleanness, O people of the house," or AHLUL-Bayt, and purify you with a perfect purification. This tradition, as identified by the Prophet himself, clearly states the members of his household, or AHLUL-Bayt. This tradition is referred to in Sahih Muslim. Another piece of evidence from Sahih Muslim and Sahih Tirmidhi is the evidence of Mubahala, which took place in the 9th or 10th year of the Hijrah, or the Islamic calendar. In that year, a delegation of 14 Christian priests came from Najran to meet the Prophet. When they asked him about his opinion on Jesus ﷺ, the Messenger of Allah told them to rest and that they would receive a reply the next day. The next day, 3 verses of the Qur'an about Jesus was revealed. When the Christians did not accept the words of Allah, the Prophet recited the last verse revealed. Recited the last revealed verse, challenging them to invoke the curse of Allah upon the liars. The verse is as follows: "If anyone disputes in this matter with thee, now after full knowledge hath come to you, say, Come, let us gather together our sons and your sons, our women and your women, ourselves and yourselves. Then let us earnestly pray and invoke the curse of Allah on those who lie." The next day, the Christian priests came out on one side of the field, while on the other side, the Prophet came out carrying his grandsons, Al-Hussein in his arm, with Al-Hassan walking along with him while holding his hand. Behind him was Fatima al-Zahra, his daughter, and behind her was Ali, her husband. In chapter 3, verse 61, the word sons refers to Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein. The word women refers to Fatima, and the word ourselves refers to the Prophet and Ali. Thus, Ali is referred to as the self of the Prophet. It follows that just as it is unlawful to seek to be superior to the Prophet, it is similarly unlawful to supersede Ali, who is the self of the Prophet, according to the words of Allah. Anyone who presumed to supersede Ali, in essence, presumed to supersede the Prophet. This is another Quranic proof of the right of Imam Ali as the immediate successor of the Prophet, and why the Shias follow Ali. Sahih Muslim and al-Tirmidhi both confirm this incident. While there are many reasons why Shias follow the Prophet and his family, some of the key reasons include a mutawatir tradition where the Prophet Muhammad informed his followers that he would leave them two precious things: the Qur'an and the AHLULBAYT, his family. The Qur'an also mentions AHLULBAYT's exceptional virtue in the purification verse. The Prophet warned his followers about division and advised them to hold fast to these two precious or weighty things, which would never separate from each other until they meet him at the pool of paradise on the day of judgment. Thank you for your time, and Assalamu alaikum.